Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and with me today is my amazing co-host, Julia. Julia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jason. And I'm super excited about today's topic because I know so many of our listeners struggle with this issue. They can understand English, but when it's time to speak, they freeze.
Exactly. If you're listening to this and you've ever thought, I understand English, but I just can't speak it, then this episode is for you.
Yes, and don't worry, you're not alone. This happens to so many learners, but the good news is we're going to help you fix it today.
That's right. We'll talk about why this happens, common mistakes learners make, and most importantly, we'll share practical tips to help you start speaking with confidence.
So if you've been stuck in the I can understand but I can't speak phase, stay with us because we've got some powerful solutions coming up.
Let's get started. All right, so let's dive into the big question. Why can you understand English but not speak it? This is something a lot of learners struggle with, and there are a few key reasons why this happens.
Yes, and the first reason is that listening and speaking are two different skills. Just because you can understand words doesn't mean your brain is trained to say them out loud.
Exactly! Think about it. When you listen, you're receiving information. But when you speak, you have to produce language in real time. That's a completely different process.
And that's why many learners feel stuck. They've spent a lot of time listening, watching movies, or reading English, but they haven't practiced forming sentences themselves.
Right. It's like watching someone ride a bicycle for years and expecting to be able to do it perfectly the first time you try. It just doesn't work that way.
Another reason is fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding funny, or even fear of being judged.
Oh, absolutely. Many learners hesitate because they don't want to say something wrong. But here's the truth. Mistakes are necessary for learning.
Yes, in fact, making mistakes is the only way to improve. Think about how children learn their first language. They make tons of mistakes, but they keep trying.
And another big reason why learners struggle with speaking is lack of muscle memory. You see, speaking a new language is not just in your brain. It also involves your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords moving in a new way.
That's so true. If you've never said a word out loud before, your mouth isn't used to forming those sounds, so it feels unnatural at first.
Exactly. You have to train your mouth just like an athlete trains their body. That's why speaking practice is so important.
So, to sum up, the three main reasons why you can understand but not speak are: 1. Listening and speaking use different skills. 2. Fear of mistakes stops you from trying. Your mouth hasn't built the muscle memory yet.
That's right. And now that we know why this happens, it's time to talk about how to fix it. In the next section, we'll dive into the science behind speaking difficulties and how you can start training your brain and mouth to speak naturally. Now that we know why so many learners can understand English but struggle to speak, let's dig deeper into the science behind speaking difficulties. What's actually happening in the brain?
Great question. So, when we listen to English, our brain processes it passively. This means we recognize words, understand their meaning, and connect them to ideas. But speaking is an active process. It requires the brain to quickly find words, structure sentences, and control our mouth movements at the same time.
Exactly. And research shows that speaking activates more areas of the brain than listening. When you listen, your brain is like a passenger on a bus. You're just following along. But when you speak, your brain is the driver. It has to make decisions and take action in real time.
And that's where the challenge comes in. Your brain isn't just thinking about words, it's also managing pronunciation, grammar, sentence structure, and even confidence all in a split second.
Right. And there's something else at play: muscle memory. Speaking is a physical skill, just like playing the piano or learning to swim. Your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords need training to get comfortable making new sounds.
Yes. And if you're only listening to English and never speaking, your brain understands the language, but your mouth doesn't know how to produce the words smoothly.
Another important factor is the fear center of the brain. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala, and its job is to detect danger. When you feel nervous about speaking English, your brain sees it as a threat, even though it's not dangerous at all.
That's so true. And this fear response can make you freeze up or forget words even if you know them.
Exactly. And that's why so many learners say, I can speak English in my head, but when I try to talk, I can't say anything. Their brain is working, but their fear is stopping them from speaking.
So, what's the solution? We need to train both the brain and the mouth. We need to build muscle memory for speaking, and we also need to rewire our brain to feel comfortable speaking English.
Yes, and don't worry, this is completely possible. In the next section, we're going to talk about the most common mistakes learners make that keep them stuck in this problem, and how to fix them. Now that we understand the science behind speaking difficulties, let's talk about some common mistakes learners make that keep them stuck in the I understand, but I can't speak phase.
Yes, these mistakes are very common, but the good news is that once you know about them, you can fix them and start speaking more easily.
All right, let's start with the first mistake. Only focusing on input, listening and reading, but not practicing output, speaking and writing.
This is huge. Many learners think, if I just listen to more English, I'll eventually start speaking. But unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Exactly. If you only listen, you get good at understanding, but your brain and mouth don't get practice forming sentences. It's like watching people play soccer, but never kicking the ball yourself. You won't improve your skills.
Right. So the key is to balance input with output. If you listen to English for 30 minutes, try speaking for at least 10 minutes after that.
Now, the second mistake is translating from your native language before speaking.
Oh, this is a big one. Many learners think in their native language first and then try to translate into English, but this slows them down and makes speaking feel unnatural.
Yes, because different languages have different sentence structures, so translating word for word doesn't always work. Instead, you should train yourself to think directly in English.
That's right, and we'll talk about some practical ways to do that later in the episode.
The third mistake is being afraid of making mistakes.
Yes, this is probably one of the biggest reasons why learners don't speak. They're worried about grammar, pronunciation, or sounding funny.
But here's the thing. Mistakes are part of the learning process. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
Exactly. Think about how children learn to speak. They make lots of mistakes, but they don't stop talking, and that's why they improve so fast.
So, if you've been waiting until your English is perfect before speaking, stop waiting. The sooner you start speaking, the faster you'll improve.
So, to recap, the three biggest mistakes are 1. Only listening and not practicing speaking 2. Translating from your native language instead of thinking in English. 3. Being afraid of making mistakes.
Yes. And now that we know the mistakes, let's talk about how to fix them with powerful practical solutions. That's coming up next. All right. Now that we know the mistakes that stop people from speaking, let's move on to the most important part: how to fix them. What are some practical strategies to start speaking English with confidence?
Yes, we're going to share some simple but powerful techniques that will help you start speaking right away.
Let's start with the first strategy, the shadowing technique. Julia, can you explain how this works?
Of course, shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say immediately, like an echo. It helps improve pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency.
Right. You can do this with podcasts, YouTube videos, or even movie dialogues. Just play a sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly as you hear it.
And if it feels too fast, slow it down. Many video platforms let you adjust the speed so you can practice comfortably.
Now, the second strategy is thinking in English. We talked earlier about how translating from your native language slows you down. So how do you start thinking in English?
A great way is to describe your daily activities in English, just in your mind. For example, when you wake up, think I am brushing my teeth, I am making coffee, I am going to work. This trains your brain to form sentences in English naturally.
That's a great tip. You can also try asking yourself simple questions like, "What will I eat today?" Or, "How do I feel right now?" and answer in English.
All right, the third strategy is speaking out loud every day. Even if you don't have a speaking partner, you can still practice by yourself.
Yes, talk to yourself in English. Describe things around you. Tell a short story, or pretend to have a conversation. The more you hear your own voice, the more comfortable you'll feel speaking.
And if you want to take it to the next level, record yourself. Listen to how you sound and try to improve your pronunciation and fluency.
Now, the final strategy is find a speaking partner or join online communities. Julia, do you think speaking with others is important?
Absolutely. Practicing with real people makes a huge difference. You can join online language exchange groups, find a speaking partner, or even talk to AI chatbots in English.
Yes. And remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. The more you practice, the easier speaking will become.
So, to recap, here are 4 strategies to start speaking one shadowing repeat after native speakers. Thinking in English, describe your daily life in English. 3. Speaking out loud. Talk to yourself and record your voice. Finding a speaking partner practice with real people or chatbots.
These strategies work if you use them consistently. So don't just listen, try them today and see the difference. Now, let's talk about something that holds back so many learners' fear of speaking. If you're worried about making mistakes or sounding silly, you're not alone. But there's a powerful trick you can use to overcome that fear, the 90-second rule.
Exactly! The 90-second rule is a simple yet effective way to manage anxiety and fear. Here's how it works when you start feeling nervous about speaking. Just wait 90 seconds and let that fear pass.
Wait, 90 seconds? That's it?
Yes, the brain's fear response usually lasts about 90 seconds. During this time, your body goes into fight or flight mode, but if you wait it out, it passes, and you'll feel calmer and more in control.
So, when you feel that anxiety building up, don't panic. Just take a deep breath and count to 90. Focus on something else for those 90 seconds, like your breathing, or even a positive affirmation like, "I'm doing my best, and that's enough."
And after the 90 seconds, you'll notice that the fear isn't as strong. You'll feel more confident to speak and keep going.
Exactly. So, the next time you feel that fear creeping in, use the 90-second rule to take control of your emotions and focus on your speaking.
It's a small investment of time, but it can make a huge difference in overcoming that fear and building your speaking confidence.
So remember, when fear strikes, just wait for those 90 seconds. After that, you'll be ready to speak with more confidence than before. Now that we've tackled fear, let's talk about how to build speaking confidence over time. Confidence doesn't come overnight, but with the right strategies, you can start feeling more comfortable speaking English in any situation.
Absolutely. The first step is to celebrate your small wins. Every time you speak, Whether it's a short sentence or a full conversation, take a moment to recognize it as progress.
Yes, instead of focusing on what went wrong, celebrate what went right. Did you remember a new word? Did you finish a sentence? That's a success.
And over time, these small wins add up and build your confidence. The more you speak, the easier it gets.
The second way to build confidence is to create a supportive environment. Surround yourself with people who encourage you to speak, whether that's language partners, friends, or online communities.
Support is so important. Positive feedback helps you grow, and it also makes you feel safe to make mistakes and try again.
Exactly. And remember, confidence comes from repeated practice. The more you speak, the more your brain gets used to the process, and the less intimidating it becomes.
And the last tip is to embrace imperfection. Don't wait until you sound perfect before you speak. Confidence grows when you speak without fear of making mistakes.
So to build speaking confidence, remember to 1. Celebrate your small wins. Create a supportive environment. 3. Embrace imperfection and speak fearlessly.
With time and consistent practice, you'll find yourself speaking with more and more confidence. Just keep going and don't stop.
Now that we've covered the key steps, it's time to put them into action. You've got this. All right, let's wrap up everything we've discussed today. If you've been struggling with the feeling of understanding English but not being able to speak, remember that it's all about consistent practice, changing your mindset, and using the right strategies.
Yes, it's about shadowing, thinking in English, and using techniques like the 90-second rule to manage fear. And most importantly, celebrate every small win along the way.
Now, we want you to take action. Start using these strategies today and begin building your speaking confidence. Speak out loud, practice every day, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Remember, progress is progress no matter how small. You're on your way to speaking English fluently.
Thanks for joining us today. If you found this podcast helpful, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else who might need a boost in their English-speaking journey.
We believe in you, and we can't wait to hear about your progress. Keep speaking, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next episode.